Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Glenorchy City Council on Monday, 26th of February 2024. I'm Beck Thomas, Mayor of Glenorchy and Chairperson of this afternoon's meeting. Glenorchy City Council acknowledges the Muwinina people as the traditional owners of this land. While sadly the Muwinina people did not survive colonisation, we recognise all Tasmanian Aboriginal people as the original owners and continuing custodians of this land on which we meet in the land and waters of this island, Lutruwita, Tasmania. We pay our respect to Aboriginal elders past and present and commit to working in a city that welcomes and respects all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Joining me here in Council Chambers this afternoon is Councillor Harry Quick, Councillor Molly Kendall, Alderman Russell Yaxley, Alderman Shane Alderton, Alderman Josh Cockshut, Alderman Stuart Slade, Alderman Stephen King and Council General Manager Tony McMullen. Before we open our agenda, I take this opportunity to make a statement about workplace health and safety. Glenorchy City Council takes workplace health and safety seriously, and this includes physical and psychological safety. We have a duty to ensure a safe workplace is provided for our employees, elected members, contractors, volunteers and members of the public who are present at Council's workplaces. Council meetings form part of Council's workplace, and it is expected that everyone who attends Council meetings will behave in a polite and respectful manner. Council has endorsed a statement of intent setting out how we as elected members have agreed to conduct ourselves in representing the people of Glenorchy. In accordance with this, any disagreement should be expressed respectfully. Remembering both during debate and in decision making, we are elected to represent and serve the people of Glenorchy and to make our city the best it can be. Finally, I note that the open section of this meeting is being live streamed and an audio-visual recording of the meeting will occur in accordance with Council's recording of Council meetings policy. Members of the public are not permitted to make their own audio-visual recordings of Council meetings. We have 22 items on our agenda this afternoon, and agenda item 1 is apologies. We have apologies this afternoon from Alderman Jan Dunsby and Deputy Mayor Sue Hickey. Agenda item 2 is confirmation of the minutes of the open meeting. Do I have someone to move that the minutes be endorsed? Alderman Slade seconded. Alderman Alderton got in just before you, Alderman King. Any discussion, Alderman Slade?
No, I'm happy with the format, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Slade. Any further discussion of the minutes? Happy for me to put the motion to the vote. Please raise your hand if you're for. That's carried unanimously. Moving on to item 3, which is announcements by the Chair, and I take this opportunity to update the community on a couple of items in relation to the Glenorchy War Memorial Pool. It gives me great pleasure to announce that over the weekend, both the Labor and Liberal parties announced $5 million in funding for the Glenorchy Pool. These election commitments are to allow for the pool to be repaired and reopened. In announcing this, I acknowledge the role the community advocacy has played in achieving this funding, which will allow us to have the pool reopened while we continue to work on the long-term future of the pool facility. The General Manager advises that he will make comment and a further recommendation for elected members' consideration in relation to Council's response to the election commitments. I just have a bit of quiet from the public gallery, please. Thank you. The General Manager advises he will make comment and a further recommendation for elected members' consideration in relation to Council's response to the election commitments at agenda item 9. It is critical that the work to explore options for the long-term future of the facility continues, and community consultation to help inform that future commences this week with our consultant, MI Global Partners, undertaking a number of sessions for people to have input into what they would like to see happen at the pool site in the longer term. I encourage all interested community members to participate in the consultation process to have their say on the future of the pool. Item 4 is pecuniary interest notification. Do any elected members or staff have any pecuniary interests on tonight's agenda? No. Thank you. Agenda item 5 is response to public questions, previous public questions taken on notice, and there are responses to questions on notice from Ms. Deanne Gilly in relation to Facebook, and Ms. Janice Bryan in relation to the LACUS report, and Lisa Rhyme in relation to child safety, and the answers to those questions taken on notice are included in the agenda. Item 6 is public Question time, and I take this opportunity before we launch the public question time to set out the rules of public question time. So this is an ordinary meeting of the council for the purpose of elected members debating and deciding on council business. In accordance with local government meeting procedures regulations, council will allocate 15 minutes during each council meeting to invite members of the public to ask questions relating to the activities of council. Council's full policy is stated in the agenda, but I'd like to bring attention to the following rules. Members of the public are to announce their name and address before asking a question, which will be recorded in the minutes. Questions are to be put succinctly and in the form of a question, not a comment or opinion. Questions must not be inflammatory, abusive, defamatory, contain a personal attack or otherwise breach any rules of the meeting which have been explained by myself as chairperson. I may limit the number of questions asked by each member of the public in order to ensure all members of the public are given the opportunity within the allocated time. I will limit each participant to 2 questions each and allow 2 minutes to ask your question, remembering it is question time, not time for commentary or debate. As chairperson, I have a responsibility to maintain a safe environment for elected members and council staff. I've tried to accommodate impassioned participation by members of the public in recent meetings as much as possible. However, there have been some concern over adherence to public question time rules. As a member of the public, you are responsible for ensuring your conduct adheres to these rules, and I will not tolerate behaviour that contravenes these rules, and any person who behaves otherwise will be asked to leave the meeting. I appreciate everyone's cooperation to ensure an orderly meeting. We had a number of questions on notice from Ms Leanne Rose, Mr Andrew Bevan, Mr Morris Malone and Ms Nicole Bouch, and the answers to those questions are included in the agenda documentation. So 15 minutes for public question time, commencing at 3:37. Any members of the public have any questions this afternoon? Ms Forster, please come forward.
Thank you. My name's Karen Forster of 227A Tilliard Street, Montrose. And my question is actually a follow-up from one I last asked via email at the last meeting, and it was about the site-specific heritage assessment, and I asked then to whom this contract had been awarded. I did receive a less than satisfactory answer and actually followed that up with an email, which still didn't answer it. What the answer didn't tell me was that the report had been received. And because I asked at the meeting of the 29th of January, the report, as we have it here, is dated 23rd of November. Whilst the answer stated the Praxis Environment had received the contract, I had asked if it was going to be undertaken by either David Parham, who I did say in my question was eminently qualified, but somebody independent. What the answer to my question failed to say was that it was being undertaken by Praxis Environment, which is owned by Brad Williams, a former heritage officer of GCC. Now, my first question is that truly independent and transparent?
Thank you, Ms Forster. Would you like to answer that, General Manager, or take it on?
Brad Williams is an experienced and eminently qualified heritage
I'm aware of
consultant.
that, yeah.
He last worked with Council in July 2014, so some 9 years ago. Oh, in fact, I think it might be longer, 2009. So 14 years ago.
Right, okay.
So there has been quite a long separation between his employment with Council and this commission.
Okay, fair enough. My second part actually relates to my same question of the 29th of January, and it related to possible consultation with the Glenorchy Municipality History Group. This question was completely ignored, and indeed ignored a second time in a follow-up email. I believe one of the reasons for that was because the assessment had already been completed, as I stated earlier. Indeed, if the time had been taken to consult with the Municipality History Group, both the council and the heritage consultant may have found out some interesting things, which I myself found out. Back when the pool campaign began, back in August, I was approached by members of the Molyneux family. Now, if you haven't heard of them, they're referred to in this document here. They believed from their family oral history that there was a very, very strong connection to land that the pool is built on. And I might point out there are dozens of Molyneux descendants living in Glenorchy and who are ratepayers. Indeed, there's one of the original children of Bertie Molyneux still living and hale and hearty at 92. She doesn't live in Glenorchy, but she still lives in the state. My research was slightly more extensive than Mr. Williams's, and it revealed firstly that the impetus for the Olympic pool started way back before his stated dates. It actually started in 1945 and was initiated by the principal of Moona School. And there were various committee meetings held at that time. At the same time, the council identified the need for a war memorial. And so those two things were going on at the same time. On the 16th of May 1945, and this is from the council minutes, all this has been gleaned from the council minutes, Bertie Molyneux wrote to the council asking that the rates on his property, number 240 on the roll and known as Wright's Dam, be placed in a fund for use in respect for a soldier's memorial. That was tabled and received, moved and seconded, and referred to the Lighting, Health and Recreation Grounds Committee. Less than 3 weeks later, on the 6th of June, the minutes state that a discussion had been held with Mr. Molyneux regarding the transfer of Wright's Dam to the council. Now, there's some important words there regarding the transfer of Wright's Dam for development as a memorial park. It was agreed that the offer embodied in his letter be accepted.
I'm very sorry to interrupt you, but I do need to ask you to get to the question.
I'm about to.
Thank you.
Just a day later, it was also decided to offer for a section of Grove Estate, Section A. Now, earlier, late last year, a member of GCC staff emailed a member of the pool group stating that this land on Grove Estate was transferred to the council on the 29th of April 1946. Not a date in 1948 as stated in Mr. Williams's report. We believe that Mr. Molyneux actually had 2 pieces of land.
Again, I just need to interrupt you just to ensure everyone has the opportunity. I'm very interested in this information you have to share, but this is perhaps not the time for sharing it in
I
public.
will share it via email, but this is important. I'm getting to my... So 2 pieces of land, because another piece was actually bought by the council in 1946. My question is, will you defer the passing of the Praxis Environment Report until the true history of the land encompassed within the pool precinct is more comprehensively researched? And will you, as a council, acknowledge the contribution of the Molyneux family, especially Mr. Bertie Molyneux, a World War I veteran who was injured twice on the Western Front and was a landholder with extensive holdings within the city?
Thank you, Ms. Forster. May I ask for your advice on the idea of deferring or or in response to Ms. Forster's
Certainly.
question?
So the recommendation tonight is to receive and note the Praxis report. And I believe the reply back to Ms. Forster also indicated that we would welcome further contributions in relation to this and other pool-related matters as part of the process. So my understanding is that there is a, and it's part of the report, is that there is some work being undertaken more generally in relation to local heritage listings to be brought forward to the GPA at a future date as part of the planning scheme, changes to the planning scheme, and there's certainly the opportunity to bring that information to bear and have a more fulsome picture.
Sure.
I
Thank you.
might
Thank you,
just
General
add
Manager.
that I do note Mr. Williams didn't reference the council minutes, and I actually read the minutes of every meeting for 30
Thank you.
years.
Yeah, we welcome you providing that information, and absolutely it's not too late for it to be included as part of this broader project that MI Global is undertaking. So thank you for bringing it to our attention. Other members of the public wishing to ask a question, Ms. Bryan.
Thank you. Janice Bryan, Montrose. Question 1. There's a large amount of almost 9 million or 9% of the budget for city leadership shown on the rate notice brochure that was sent out with the rate notices. What is that for?
Thank you, Ms. Bryan. To ensure we provide you with a comprehensive answer to that question, I'll take it on notice.
Thank you. Next question. The pool investigation is linked to returning a profit on investment. Why isn't the government funding this major preventative health care and essential community facility and asset that they are legally responsible for providing? And will the widespread preventative health savings for medical, hospital, mental, disability services and allied health budgets, including physiotherapy, be costed into the return on investment for the pool calculations? And if not, the methodology being used is fatally flawed.
Thank you, Ms. Bryan. Do you have a response to that, General Manager?
Through you, Mayor. MI Global, as part of their project, will be looking at cost-benefit analysis for the pool project. I don't know precisely what whether they'll be taking into account non-financial costs and benefits, but we're certainly happy to make that inquiry and come back with a
Well,
response.
they are
Director,
ultimately
sorry,
financial.
I'll just let the General Manager and Director finish answering the question. Do you have anything to add, Director or Manager, to the cost-benefit analysis that MI Global will be undertaking?
Mayor, the cost-benefit analysis may not show a profit because of the ongoing operating costs that would have to be funded by the ratepayer, but would have to wait till we actually get that cost-benefit analysis to determine whether there is a surplus or a deficit.
Yep, but do you know if it will include non-pecuniary benefits, I guess, like non-financial benefits, like in terms of preventative health measures and...
So they will be considering some non-asset type benefits that would contribute,
Sure.
but once again, it's hard to quantify.
Absolutely, and I think the consultation process that kicks off this week is the perfect opportunity to ask MI Global some of those questions about the methodology that they'll be using. They'll be extremely interested to hear from community members and be able to provide community members with assurances to the methodology that they're using. So I encourage you to ask that of MI Global in the consultation opportunities being provided this week.
I would like the council to speak to MI Global or advise them that that has to be part of that benefit analysis. And
Happy to take it on notice.
there needs to be
Ms.
costing. It is a financial thing. I know you say it's not, but it is a financial thing for the
understand.
budgets and the struggling health system. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Ms. Ryan. Ms. Crew.
Lana Crew for Nagle Place, Glenorchy. I noticed that you have shared a post on the Prime Minister being booed and have turned off comments on your mayoral Facebook page. My question is, how can the community interact with you effectively if we cannot comment on social media? We're shut down in community yarns, which in itself is a farce. We are repeatedly interrupted by yourself during public question time because you do not understand that a question has to have some commentary in order to lend perspective. You do not return calls, and this is from personal experience, made to the council switchboard and to your mobile phone. You do not answer emails promptly. And finally, rejecting my request to address council on a serious community matter, despite my assurance that I will restrict my address to the matter at hand. The excuse that you gave was that the matter is sub judice. As a qualified lawyer, I can assure you that I will not commit the equivalent of sub judice contempt.
Thank you, Ms. Crew. I can explain I turned off comments on my Facebook page as I use Facebook as a communication tool rather than an engagement tool. I am responsive to community members. I think I may have replied to your email 3 days after you sent it, which is well within council's charter of commitment in terms of service levels and responsiveness to requests. I certainly do return phone calls when messages are left on my personal mobile. I don't recall having a message left on my personal mobile by you. I'm happy to be corrected if there has been a message on my phone, but I quite publicly advertise my mobile phone number, my email address, and as I've said to you and all community members on a number of occasions, my door is always open. I'm always happy to meet with community members face-to-face to discuss issues in a more fulsome manner than public question time affords. So I am certainly available and that offer remains open.
Well, I acted on behalf of the Punjabi Society and the Guru Nanak Society, and I won't mention the incident, but it was of real interest to the community, and it was a very, very sad issue, and it needed a public platform to inform the rest of Glenorchy, and this is the only forum. You know, getting platitudes in private doesn't help the cause. I won't say any more because we'll discuss this further in private.
Oh, thank you.
My second question is, it is a well-known fact that local government is a training ground for career politicians. Having sent mixed messages to both the community and your aldermen on the subject of the Glenorchy War Memorial Pool, and considering the angst and the lack of trust that you've sown into the fabric of the community as mayor, not to mention the absence of reciprocity as it pertains to respect at public meetings, is there any credence to the rumour that you will be running in the Legislative Council elections in May?
Ms. Crew, that is a matter for me to determine at such time as I wish. Right now, I am solely focused on serving the community of Glenorchy as mayor, and there has been no evidence to suggest otherwise. So I'm not sure where those rumours are circulating from, but certainly there's nothing to suggest that that's a decision that I have made.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for answering me and not interjecting. But I'm sure in the fullness of time it will all come to pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crew. Ms. Gilly.
Good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, I'd like to say how good it is to see most of you putting your devices away and actually looking at the person that's talking.
This is not time for opinions, so...
I'm just saying thank you for putting them away. Thank you for looking for the person that's talking and actively listening. My question today is back on the topic of the hydrotherapy pool, the pool that was built by council and leased to Revive, who then sublet to St Giles. There was a problem with the compliance of the building and the hydrotherapy pool, resulting in the tenants of Revive not paying some rent some time ago. Question 1, what was the date the building and the pool defects were rectified so that the lease payments were started?
Take that on notice. Thank you, Ms. Gilly.
So there's a desperate need for aqua exercise and water therapy, and I feel this facility, in my experience of being very privileged to have been able to use it 3 times a week while I was assisting quadriplegic clients. A lot of the time the pool was quite empty. There was nobody there on Fridays at all. I just want to question too, are any of the aldermen aware of the lease agreement with the Glenorchy Council and Revive? How much longer the lease could be? And is there any way of some provisions being made so that more people can access this facility?
Thank you, Ms Gilly. I believe we have a workshop scheduled in the near future to discuss exactly this topic. So
Great, thank you very much.
Aldermen will be made aware of the provisions and the opportunities going forward.
Good, thank you.
Any further questions from members of the public this afternoon? Ms Rose. And I note we have gone beyond our 15 minutes, so I'll extend for another 10 minutes until 4:06.
Thank you for that, Mayor. My name's Leanne Rose. I live at Anderson Street, Glenorchy, and my first question today is the project outline investigating into pool redevelopment and other options. On page 8, it details a reference group comprising representatives of KG5 precinct, ratepayers and community members. Could you please advise us who are the members of these reference groups?
Thank you. Ms Rose, General Manager? Director?
Mayor, that was the part of the original options scope that was put to council just after the pool closed. When the tender documents went out, that governance structure changed slightly. There is still a reference group, but it's more of a stakeholder group, which still involves specific stakeholders like sporting clubs, KG5, precinct occupiers, and those sort of things. So they will be liaised with by MI Global, and they will report back to council with information that they provide back to MI Global.
And I think to add to that, MI Global's approach has been to engage with the community more fully and broadly through the extensive consultation sessions that are being held this week, including the meeting tomorrow night, was the way, that's my understanding, because I have asked the same question as you, and my understanding was MI Global saw the meeting with the group tomorrow night at KG5 as a more effective way to ensure more people can have a say in that targeted way.
Thank you. My second question today, how did you and the aldermen make the decision to close and then empty the pool permanently, which was contrary to the Lacus engineer report that was paid for by ratepayers, in effect putting the lining and mastic seals at further risk, without even knowing the cost of the full repairs? So how and why did you make that decision without that knowledge, not having that knowledge prior?
Thank you, Ms Rose. I feel like we've perhaps answered this previously. I guess in terms of making the decision to close the pool, that was a decision made by the General Manager in his capacity as person conducting a business undertaking, given the significant health and safety risks posed by the condition of the pool assets as outlined in the report. So that was a decision taken by the General Manager to protect public safety. In terms of emptying the pool, the Director might be able to provide more detail on that, but my understanding again was that was in response to concerns about the water stagnating and not being able to run a pump to be able to filter the water, given the safety risks posed by our switchboard system. But Director, do you want to add anything to that?
Thank you, Mayor. That's pretty accurate. The switchboard is pretty much condemned and so shouldn't be operated, which means we can't turn on pumps or the filtration system, so we can't circulate the water. It will stagnate. There's also safety concerns with the pool being unoccupied and unused, that if people got in, there's a safety risk of people falling in. So a decision was made to empty the pool for those factors, those reasons.
No, so with that in mind, we've got the 5 million offer from both governments. Will you fill the pool up until that money is provided? Because the Lacus report says that if you don't fill it up, basically, the lining and the mastic seals will dry out and crack. So will you take precautions so that doesn't happen?
Yeah, I think the General Manager and Director may have a bit more to say on this when we get to agenda item 9. So I just ask if you hold that over and we will ensure if it's not answered, then we'll answer it in writing.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions from members of the public this afternoon? Ms Smith.
Hello, Tracy Smith from Glenorchy. Here representing Friends of Glenorchy Pool Inc. Firstly, we'd just like to say thank you, Mayor, for your change of decision to repair the pool, as seen in the media on the weekend. Our question is, if the $5 million promise from the major parties actually does eventuate, and we do know that it's an election promise, so it may never, ever turn up, do we have the support from other council aldermen to repair the pool?
Thank you, Ms Smith. I will just clarify that certainly whilst I welcomed the announcement of the election commitments over the weekend, I as one elected member can't make a decision to accept funding or to make a captain's call to repair the pool. That will be a decision that will be subject to the full council. And I just ask again that you wait for agenda item 9, where we will be considering council's response to the election commitments.
Okay. And my second question is, in the tender document that was awarded to MI Global, whose decision was it to include the exploration of the alternate options for the pool site? So did that come from council or was that written in the document by someone else?
So the General Manager prepared a project brief in terms of exploring options for the future of 2A Anfield Street, including pool development and alternative options, pool redevelopment and alternative options. That was a project brief put together by the General Manager for the purpose of procuring a consultancy to undertake that work, and that report was put to council for receipt and noting rather than for endorsement. But I expect had elected members had any issue with what was included in the content of the report, they would have sought to have the brief amended or move an alternative motion, and that didn't happen. So I guess the General Manager, by way of receiving and noting the project brief as it was, had the support of council in investigating all options for the future of the site, recognising that whilst, as I've said a number of times, most of us, I think, around the table, and certainly myself, want a pool just as much as everyone else in the community, but we can't send the community broke doing it. So the important thing is that we explore all options and have a full picture of costs and benefits and that full analysis before we are to make an informed decision on the future of the site.
So the answer was the General Manager wrote that? He wrote those words into the document? Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Smith. Any further questions? We have 2 minutes left. Okay, thank you to members of the public for your conduct in public question time. Item 8 is activities of the Mayor. We have a recommendation that Council receives a report about myself during the period Monday 22nd of Jan to Sunday 18th of Feb. Someone moved, Alderman King. Someone to second. Councillor Kendall. Alderman King.
No, busy as always, Mayor. I appreciate you putting this report out. Again, I don't feel you need to, but I appreciate it, so
Thank you.
thank you.
Any discussion? Councillor Kendall.
Yeah, I was just curious about the Salvation Army's literacy program on the 14th of Feb. You were talking to them. Is that connected with our 2610 commitments or separate?
Yeah, thank you for the question. The Salvation Army run a program in schools for children. So whilst our 2610 program is aimed at adult literacy, improving adult literacy rates, their program is really aimed at supporting school students with reading skills, and they rely on volunteers to be going into schools as part of their program to support students with improving literacy. So the meeting was really to connect with our 2610 coordinator and talk about opportunities to promote their programs. They're always looking for more volunteers. So.
Good to know. And one more, on the same day, you had a meeting with business owners and Inspector Jim Simmons. Could you talk about that?
Yes, absolutely. So that was in response to some calls from local businesses in the Moona CBD strip who have had some experience of antisocial behaviour impacting on their businesses and staff along that CBD strip. So the opportunity was to come together to talk about the issues and what we may be able to do in response, what the Glenorchy Police may be able to do in response, and also Simon Baracus came along as a local member of the government at the time, up until that day, I think it was, that the election was actually called. He's been someone who has shown interest in the community safety issue. So we talked about a number of different responses, increased police patrols, obviously, and advocating for more police resources, increasing the amount of CCTV cameras throughout the Moona Strip, which Council is already working on, and looking at engaging the Department of State Growth and Metro on bus services through there as well and bus stops. So a number of actions identified to explore out of that meeting, and really it was just to show support for those business owners and in terms of the impact that it's having on them. Thanks. Any further discussion? For me to put the motion, Alderman King?
Certainly.
Okay, I'll put the motion. Please raise your hand if you're for. It's carried unanimously. Oh, did I miss one? Oh, thank you, General Manager. My apologies, I skipped a page. Item 7, petitions or deputations. Do we have any, General Manager?
No, but I just mentioned the fact that the full petition was tabled at the last meeting, and there's a report on in item 9
Right.
in relation to that.
Thank you, General Manager. We will move on to item 9, petition seeking public meeting and pool repair and reopening. We have a number of recommendations before us. General Manager, did you want to, sorry, yep.
I would like to move an alternative motion as well.
Yep.
Just a point number 5, which reads, in light of the bipartisan election commitments of $5 million funding, direct the General Manager to identify priority works required and start planning to safely repair and reopen the Glenorchy War Memorial Pool while long-term solutions are being explored.
Thank you, Alderman Cockshott.
I'll second that motion.
Alderman King just got in just before you, sorry, Alderman Alderson. So that, just to clarify, Alderman Cockshott, that is in addition to the 4
Yep.
items that are already in the
Yeah, just an
recommendation.
extra point, yep.
Yep, sure, which I won't read out due to their length, but so we've got, that moved Alderman Cockshott and seconded Alderman King. Alderman Cockshott, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I just want to first off by saying thank you to the community for your advocacy in this process. Obviously, to get a petition of 4,500 signatures, it's quite overwhelming, the support that Glenorchy Pool has received. Obviously, as a council, we've done our due diligence over the last 6 to 12 months, and it's great to see both the community's advocacy and what we've done internally by writing to the ministers and the government has worked, and it's great to see both parties have come to the table to give a $5 million commitment, which will see the Glenorchy Pool hopefully returned and opened in the short term. What that looks like is what point 5 was about. It's basically seeing what priority works need to be completed so we can reopen as safe as possible and make sure we can get people swimming in the pool. Obviously, as part of the petition, it's noting we'll have a public meeting for the community on the 27th of March, so I encourage everyone to get to that, have your say. Obviously, EMI Global are doing their piece as well as part of the community consultation, so I just think it's overall a good result for the community as well to have that pool back for the short term, and obviously we're going through this process at the moment of what the future of the site looks like with the pool as well, so that's that.
Thank you, Alderman Cockshott. Any further discussion? Alderman King?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, grateful for point 5, Alderman Cockshott, which has given us a bit of direction, or give the General Manager a bit of direction so we can be better prepared given that this funding becomes available. We try not to be cynical, we try to be grateful, and let's hope that that's what happens and we can all move forward. So thank you to the community as well for all their efforts, and to my fellow aldermen for their efforts as well, and the staff. The staff have done incredible work on this in trying to move this thing forward, so thank you.
Thank you, Alderman King. Any further discussion? Alderman Yaxley.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. I think it's important that, and I think it's worth noting, obviously, like Alderman Cockshott mentioned about the petition, the numbers are there, and I think it's certainly a unique way to have that brought to the attention. I certainly welcome intelligent respectful and vigorous debate. I do have some reservations around the effectiveness of the public meeting, just due to being so far down the track with things and the actual the point around what will be discussed there. A lot of it we've had a lot of these conversations already. So I guess it's important that but we work together, we work collaboratively. That's right, is it? Thank you. And I just think, there's been a lot of passion. There's been a lot of words and comments that have come out which have been hurtful and unnecessary, and actually goes against working together. And I hope that as a community, the council, as the community can see that council is trying to do the best for our community in every way. So I hope that the public meeting is a real line in the sand to be able to see us move forward in collaboration with respect, with appreciation that everyone is trying to do the best, both from council and from within the community together. And I feel that we can work together to see a really, really excellent, obviously now with the repair option being possible with the new possible funding. I'd like to be able to say that it's absolutely confirmed, but we are in an election period, which does sometimes, we can, depending on what conditions come with it, but by having both parties come out is a really strong sign. So this new funding, which really wasn't on the radar at all, it's important that this is now a stopgap. We can see the pool back in operation while we look longer term into seeing what that site could be and do. It's a significant site, and that's why we've taken these steps to make sure that that investment and time is done well, and that it's done with thought, and making sure that it's the best result possible for our community. So again, I do emphasise that short term is still a promise, but it's certainly welcomed, and I'll support the recommendation, including the number 5.
Thank you, Alderman Yaffe. Alderman Slade.
Thank you, Mayor. I just like to make the comments that I was trying to look through my records the other day. I think this is the only second tabling of a petition which has brought about a public meeting in 30 years. So I commend you for that. I was almost going to do one back in 1991 myself regarding the Rosetta landslip, but didn't quite get to that. But I commend you for that. And what it's shown is certainly as you go around Glenorchy up to where we are now, that it's certainly been on everybody's thought processes and shops and wherever you go. And I think that's commended to everybody involved. And I think at the end of the day that it certainly has prompted the two governments, the current government and the opposition, to come forward with election commitment at the stage of $5 million. So again, I commend you for that. I think what's really important that now that we have the meeting on the 27th of March, this is the meeting outside the one that you have tomorrow night with your own independence with global organisation. But I think this one here, it's a real chance for, I think, all of us sort of come together. I think with the possibility of the $5 million there from each side sort of being told that it's available, I think we can sort of go forward a bit more in a much more of a conciliatory way, a positive way. I like to work at a more collegially effective way of coming up with some outcomes for the community, especially the users of the pool. But at the same time, I'm very mindful of what the council has been doing up to now, and that we can't move away, quite obviously, from our long-term solutions to what happens to the pool. But there is well and truly a light on, and I know that meeting on the 27th of March 2024, Mayor and fellow Aldermen, is going to be a productive one, and I'm looking forward to the involvement of the
people involved, not just in this great committee, but all around Glenorchy. And also I think that part 5 really does just highlight again the importance that, you know, council had to go down this track before, because we simply did not have the money. The money's been put on the table and we want to be part of that process. But at the end of the day, we certainly want to be part of making sure that there's positive long-term solutions for the poor. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Slade. Alderman Alderton.
Thank you, Mayor. I too would like to congratulate the community for their passionate, vocal, hard work in this space. They achieved something in $5 million through a state election that I feel is something the council would never have achieved on their own. I think the important thing now is moving forward. I'm happy for the community. I'm excited that we have at least guaranteed the short-term future of the pool. What's important now is, and I think the great opportunity now presents itself at this public meeting, to put our differences aside, to work together collaboratively and to work on the greater picture, which is to secure a long-term future for the Glenorchy pool. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Alderton. Any further discussion? Councillor Quick.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the public need to realise that even with this commitment of $5 million, the money won't certainly be flowing until very late this year, because in my expectation we won't have a majority government, and so both parties will have to work together collaboratively. And it's good that both of them have put their hand up, but there should be a realisation of the public that the pool certainly won't be open in October this year. It'll probably be the year afterwards. But this promise, as it says there, gives the general manager and the staff the opportunity to start identifying what needs to be done and putting everything in place prior to the cheque arriving on the general manager's table. I'd like to thank all the people involved in the Save the Pool. As other aldermen have said, there has been some angst and some harsh words said. And I'd like to think that when the pool is opened, that Shane Gould and Miss Rose do the honour of having the first swim in the new pool.
Thank you, Councillor Quick. Councillor Kendall. Are you going to top that?
Thank you, Mayor. I can't. You've got to smile. Also extending my congrats to community. What an amazing community campaign that's actually got the state government listening and delivering the funds. I've got to admit it was slightly conflicting for me after what feels like almost a year now of saying repair isn't the best option, and that's been quite a hard thing for me to say as an environmental advocate, and really hearing those stories from community. The picture's changed slightly now with it being state government money, even though still in my mind there's a question of, well, it's still resources, and I do have a question mark around throwing good money after bad, and I really want a long-term pool for our community, so it has been conflicting in a lot of ways. In terms of the public meeting, I think the more public meetings the better. I think it's really important that community express, even if it's those hard feelings, that we can come together and try to move forward, and for us to acknowledge that, the impact that it's had on community. I alluded to, my questions and concerns around repair still remain, and that's around the leak in the pool, where that's actually coming from, and if that can be fixed with $5 million. I really hope that it can. But I think what's clear is that we need more information about repair. Like, we don't know if 35,000 plus litres is chlorinated water, non-chlorinated water. So this will give us more information about that. So I'm happy, and I'm happy to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Kendall. Before I speak to the motion, I might just ask the General Manager just to, explain what you know, when we're talking about identifying priority works required and start planning, what the next steps will be, and further some of the questions from, I think it was Ms Smith who asked about refilling the pool, what the next steps will be in terms of where to from here. What does this actually look like?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So essentially from here, and it's obviously been mentioned that we've got a couple of promises. The promises won't crystallise until such time as we've got a signed funding deed, but it's promising that we've got announcements from both parties. But essentially what the officers will do from here is now get on in earnest and start looking at what is the best way to spend the $5 million to get that pool up and running again. So we'll be looking at the most efficient way to get maximum bang for buck out of those works to make sure that we can extend the life of the pool.
Thank you. And in terms of refilling the pool, Director, perhaps what will be the next steps, I guess, in terms of investigating whether that's necessary, and when will that information be at hand, do you think?
Mayor, we've had some conversations with the Lakers team who did the initial assessment of the pool. They've advised that they would come and do an inspection if this is approved and resolved tonight. They will come and inspect the joints and provide us information on what to do, and also a priority list of what are the most the things that they do that provide the most benefit for that $5 million. And we'll actually contact them after this meeting, once it's resolved, to get things moving as soon as possible.
Thank you. So we'll wait for further engineering advice before we determine whether we refill the pool or not, ultimately.
They've actually advised not to refill the pool until they do that inspection there.
Sure. Thank you, Director. I might speak to the motion, and I appreciate the addition of 5. Thank you, Alderman Cockshott, and thank you, General Manager, for that explanation as well. It's fantastic that this state election has given us the opportunity to fund the interim works to be able to repair and reopen the pool. I have been genuine all along in saying that I too want to see a pool here in Glenorchy, and I was genuine in saying, you know, it's a head over heart decision. With my heart, with all of my heart, I want to see a pool, and am absolutely delighted with the announcement of funding to see the pool repaired and reopened without breaking the ratepayer, without sending council broke. And that was really where I've been coming from all along, is from that fiduciary duty I have as effectively a director of the organisation around this table, is ensuring we as a council that have had 10 out of 12 deficit budgets have a vision to get back in the black for the long-term good of the community. Don't send the community broke in getting the best outcome. So to be able to have state government funding, to be able to deliver what the community, as loud and clear, told us they want us to deliver for them, is just such a relief for me. We still do need to explore all options for the long-term future of the pool. We need to be ready with a solid plan, with a business case informed by the community to attract what's likely to be significant funding for the long-term future of the site. That hasn't changed. So that work that we are doing, and that we always planned to do, even before we had the condition assessment, to look into the long-term future of the pool, is really critical. And I really hope that community will continue to participate in that, despite the fact that we've got funding promises to repair the pool. So that hasn't changed. The importance of that work hasn't changed. But what has changed is that whereas we previously didn't have the necessary funding without sending council the ratepayer broke to undertake repairs sufficient to reopen the pool in the shorter term, we now have these commitments from both the Labor and Liberal parties that mean we can repair the pool in the interim. The community, not only here in Glenorchy but across Greater Hobart, has told us that they want the pool repaired and reopened. What we've heard over the past 6 months is that as an outdoor aquatic facility, the Glenorchy pool is an important and valued asset, not just for the people of Glenorchy, but for residents from across Greater Hobart as well, as I said, and they want it fixed. We have the opportunity to take up this state government funding to deliver what the community is asking for, to repair and reopen the pool, whilst we continue to explore options for the long-term future of the site. It's incumbent upon us to take up that funding to be able to deliver what the community wants. I understand how and why People were upset when we announced that we weren't able to reopen the pool, and I still fully support that decision because the facility was unsafe and public safety had to be our number one priority. But I do acknowledge for the community, and to some extent for us around the table as well, the decision seemed sudden and unexpected. We didn't want to take this decision. It wasn't something that was an easy decision to take from a public safety perspective, sure. You keep the public safe first and foremost, but this hasn't been an easy road for us as a council. I know it's not been easy for the community either, but it's been really hard to go through this time. We could not compromise public safety. And the funding we have promised through these election commitments provides us with the opportunity to undertake repairs to make the facility safe and have it reopen while we continue to look at the long-term future. Without the option of funding, state government funding, there was a very real risk that our consultation with the community would not have moved beyond a desire to repair and reopen the pool. And it's critical that we have this genuine conversation with the community about the long-term future for the facility. So I'm really pleased that having this funding and being able to repair and reopen the pool gives us the breathing space, if you like, to have that really genuine conversation with the community about the longer term future, because that is always what council had planned and hoped to be doing, was continue to operate the pool whilst we did this project to plan for the future. We were always planning to do this project, but just unfortunately the condition assessment was worse than we expected, and we had to shut it down in the shorter term while we do that work. So this work will build a long-term case for the long-term future of the pool, and it's still needed, and it's really vital that the community participates in the engagement activities this week with MI Global partners. So I guess we, as my fellow elected members have said, let's go forward, hopefully working together, genuinely appreciating that we do want the same thing, and now we've got it. Let's be united in our advocacy going forward and in our conversations about the longer term future of the site. Now that both the Labor and Liberal governments or parties will be going forward expecting us to repair and reopen the facility. The community will be expecting us to do that, and I know council and council officers will work as hard and as fast as possible to make that happen, noting that it could take probably a couple of seasons. That was the estimate in the reports that we've had to date on repair options, so that they would likely take 2 seasons to complete. So I guess we need to be conscious and managing expectations in terms of the likelihood of how fast we can do this. But I just hope the community genuinely accepts that we will work as fast and as hard as possible on executing these projects to get the pool repaired and reopened. And I just ask the community to be patient with us as we go through that journey, starting with the further exploration by the engineers to determine exactly what's required and what we can do with a $5 million funding envelope. Public meeting on the 27th of March as per the request in the petition, and I do note the efforts of the community in putting forward that petition, and I look forward to a respectful and collaborative conversation at that public meeting. I'll go back to the mover, who was Alderman Cockshott, to close debate.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I echo your comments just then, and the director obviously will get people down on the ground and start as soon as we can to see what the priorities are to safely reopen the pool. But as it's outlined in the agenda, it is probably going to be a couple of seasons just to set the expectation before we can get people swimming in there again. So being ultimately transparent, documentation's all there. There's a meeting tomorrow night which you'll be able to go to with MI Global and have an independent side of things and discuss it there. But also, thanks to your support with the petition, a meeting of the council on the 27th, and we could be able to sit down and work, I'm going to get this wrong now, collaboratory. It's one of those days, right? Together, moving forward and start the process. So I think you've heard enough from me. I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion to the vote. Please raise your hand if you are for. That's carried unanimously. Moving on to item 10, Future of Local Government Review. Future of Local Government Review Final Report Submission. We have a recommendation that Council make a submission to the Minister for Local Government in response to his invitation to comment on the Local Government Board's Future of Local Government Review Final Report in the terms set out under the heading Submission Summary in this report and the detailing attachment 3. Someone to move this Moved to councillor Quick, seconded councillor Kendall. Councillor Quick.
Once again, it's disappointing to see that a major piece of local government structure and change and the potential for that to happen, stymied by a premature election 15 months early. I mean, a lot of work has gone into this, lots of consultation and discussion, and now it's in a hiatus. And goodness knows, at the result of the next state election, I'll bet my money that no side will get a majority. So where it lands in the priority list is a bit dubious. It really worries me that, 560,000 people, we've got 29 councils. We need to think seriously about amalgamation, shared services and the like, and I know Alderman Suko in Hobart has been quite prominent in saying, it's a bit ridiculous. We've got two councils side by side, divided by Creek Road. We ought to be thinking seriously about having some sort of merger or amalgamation, and sadly, as I said, it's now been put on the back burner because we've got a premature state election, which is really, really disappointing because it showed some real promise, and we were asked to make submissions. Our staff worked hard. We were consulted about where we saw it going, and now it's in the bin, and goodness knows when we're going to start again.
Thank you, councillor Quick. Any further discussion? Councillor Kendall.
Yeah, just echoing that, councillor Quick, but also, I'm just happy with our submission, happy to support this agenda item. And I think along the way, we've all been quite united in terms of, the council recommendation here is that a business case for amalgamation needs to be put forward. And we've all been on the same page in terms of only expanding the scope of local government if it's funded. So that's been a resounding thing we all agree on, and it comes through strongly in this report. And also stricter powers in terms of elected member behaviour. There's lots of improvements in this report that we all agreed to. So hopefully it remains relevant, and we can see some action in future.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Alderman Yaxley.
Thank you, Mayor. The interruption is frustrating, absolutely, and hopefully it's not in the bin, but hopefully it's just on a desk somewhere, ready for, because there has been a staggering amount of work that has gone into it, and we are, the finishing line, shaping it is sort of in sight. It's certainly frustrating. Just a couple of notes, I guess, for mine is that certainly the funding of it around it. It's important that those investigations are really seriously considered by state government in terms of making sure that the funding of it to make sure things, the implementation can happen. That there's obviously plenty of more conversations are going to happen as well, and I would like to really congratulate our council team, our general manager, in terms of the hard work and effort. The implementation has been thoroughly looked at and thoroughly looked at in what is best for Glenorchy, and I think that's the overarching key to any change, is that our community is better for us.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll go back to councillor Quick. Anything to close debate? No, happy for me to put the motion to the vote. I'll put the motion. Please raise your hand if you're for. It's carried unanimously. Item 11, Statement of Local Heritage Significance for Glenorchy War Memorial Pool. We have a recommendation that council receive and note a council commission statement of local heritage significance for Glenorchy War Memorial Pool prepared by Brad Williams, Heritage Consultant and Director of Praxis Environment. Do I have someone to move this? Moved, Alderman Alderton.
Mayor, I would actually like to move that we defer this motion based on the information provided to us by Karen Forster tonight. We defer this motion to the next council meeting after we've had a look at Ms Forster's information.
Thank you, Alderman Alderton. Can I just ask, General Manager, would there be any impact in terms of putting this forward to MI Global if we defer the motion?
Through you, Mayor. So the document has already been provided to MI Global as part of the suite of documents we've given them to do the we're all doing it tonight, literature review for their project to get the background. So no impact on that. The other point to make is that the purpose of this report is really to release that as an attachment. So it served its purpose, and the intention wasn't tonight to seek council's endorsement in any way, shape or form, simply to receive and note the report. So there is, as I think I mentioned in the reply to the question earlier, there is still scope for council to consider feedback. We appreciate the research that's been undertaken, and that can be factored into the picture going forward.
Yeah, so General Manager, if this item is deferred and brought back, it's unlikely there'll be any material change to the recommendation or to the contents of the report, because we've procured the report's been completed. Deferring the item will perhaps not have any.
Through you, Mayor, I might,
Sure.
with your indulgence, seek the advice of the Heritage Officer in relation to that.
Mayor, yes, thank you. I think the report releasing it, I think now has provided the basis for this review. And it's, as I think it's explained in the report, council report, is that it's part of a broader amendment process. So releasing it now puts it out there in the community and looks at the findings and gives that information to the community. If there are matters that need to be considered, they can come forward. The time frame for the amendment goes for quite some time to November, December, and so there is time to receive that, to consider that. I mean, my role now is obviously to receive when information comes in. I'll assess it, see if there's any material changes to the report that may require a review either by myself or Mr. Williams, depending on the nature of the information that comes forth. And I can't say, until I see it, where that will go. I think it is important, though, to make sure we have a correct record for whole lots of reasons, just to make sure that the history facts straight. So, yes, yeah. And so, I mean, because in the future we may look to interpret the pool more fully with the information that's come forth as part of this process and all those things. So, short answer is I think the report served its purpose for now and released to the community. I think if we receive this information, I'll make an informed judgment about how that goes forward, and we come forward through the planning scheme amendment process. That will build anything that's relevant will be built into that in that fullness of time.
To the next stage, yeah.
To progress.
Sure.
With some integrity.
Sure.
Question, Mayor, if I may, through you. So I take it that means that if we receive this, it's not going to really affect anything, just so we can go ahead and start breaking back.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
So we don't need to defer.
No, not really. Do you still want to move that? I understand your intent.
I understand my intent has been clear. It's been explained a lot clearly now, so I'm happy to withdraw the amendment to defer.
Sure. Thank you. Would anyone like to move the motion?
Based on that, I'm happy to move that.
Thank you, Alderman King. Seconded, Alderman Cockshut. Alderman King.
I think we've had a wonderful explanation. We're very clear on where we are now, and let's move forward.
Thank you. Further discussion? Alderman Yaxley.
Thank you, Mayor. I found it fascinating reading. I loved it. And also Mrs. Force's insights tonight. I was sort of riveted. I knew the question had to be coming, but I was riveted in terms of the all those things, and I saw the picture of the bumper boats. I never knew that they were there. So that there's that there, and that took me back to my childhood. I grew up in Adelaide. Just indulge me here. There was bumper boats at Magic Mountain in South Australia, which is well known to any South Australian. And sadly, that facility had to be shut as well. And while there were lots of parts of it in the redevelopment, and there was a lot of angst about that shutting down, it's now into a family entertainment complex, which still has bumper boats, I think, from memory when I went there last time. So maybe we could reinvigorate the bumper boats into the site. Maybe we could add that to
the wish list.
The wish list, yes, exactly. So I guess
I don't think
there's a
that's not within the $5 million scope, just to be clear.
I found that an interesting parallel, and it reminded me of that now that facility is an excellent facility, and it's a 21st century facility, and that's the hope that hopefully we can all see. But history is important, and I think acknowledging it and certainly getting it purely unequivocally correct is very important. So I'm more than happy to note the recommendation.
Thank you. Further for Alderman Alderton?
Yeah, I too agree. I've read it. It's a wonderful story, and no doubt the additional information that Karen is going to provide will only add value to that story. It's probably a story that needs to be written one day or captured down the track in the history of Glenorchy and the history of the pool, I feel.
Thank you. Councillor Kendall?
Yeah, sorry, I was getting into commentary, I guess, so we should rein it in. But yeah, just I can confirm the bumper boats are still there, and it really does, as a kid who grew up in Adelaide as well, it really does cement the importance of that childhood memory stuff that we're seeing through the engagement of the pool. Like, I have very fond memories of Magic Mountain as well, which just looked like a giant paper mache. It sort of looked like a potato, but still.
Describe for something else.
Oh, right. I don't know what that is. But no, I was really interested to read this report as well, and the two major components being that it was at a moment in history when we transformed from a regional area to an official city, and also the community spirit factor, which was a lovely thing to see written down in a heritage report, the fact that the community came together to fundraise to build this pool. So, yeah, thanks for the report.
Thank you. Anything further? No, I'll just reiterate, I guess, that where to from here, it's envisaged an officer's report to consider whether or not to prepare a heritage amendment, which includes the Glenorchy War Memorial Pool site, will be prepared for consideration of the Glenorchy Planning Authority. It's expected to be considered in November or December. So as David, our heritage officer, has said, he'll be going to do some work on analysing the contents of the report and any other information that will be forthcoming from community members, which will be really important to factor into the Planning Authority's consideration in relation to any amendment to the planning scheme in response to this report. So I think it's fantastic that Council did commission this particular study. It's great to hear from the community in terms of, of what they have to add to our consideration when it comes to potential planning scheme amendments, and noting that the report does found that the place is of some local heritage significance against those criteria that Councillor Kendall has noted. So it's really important that we have this information documented, and look forward to the next steps later in the year. If nothing further, I'll go back to Alderman King to close debate.
Oh, look, while we're going down memory lane, we may as well. I grew up in Claremont, didn't grow up in Adelaide. We didn't have any boat. We used to wander into the Glenorchy pool and bump into each other. It was so crowded. So there you go. I was born before the pool actually was open, so I think those memories are correct. But nevertheless, grateful for this report, grateful for everyone's input, and thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion to the vote. Please raise your hand if you're for. It's carried unanimously. Item 12, Financial Performance Report to 31st of January 2024. We have someone to move that we receive and note the financial report. Alderman Yaxley, someone to second. Alderman Cockshott, Alderman Yaxley.
That's in the next one, sorry. The performance, it's great. It's a great progress report, and obviously with the forecast to remain in a favourable position moving forward through to the end of the year is excellent, and I open it up to debate.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Kendall? Oh, Councillor Quinn?
Up to you, Molly.
Councillor Kendall.
Thanks, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so I had a question just about mitigating some of our risk. I note that in the capital expenditure section of this report, that it's noted that we're still suffering from inflation costs, supply chain issues, and contractor availability. I was actually going to look to the Deputy Lord Mayor, who's unfortunately on leave, to ask whether HCC, Hobart City Council suffer from these sorts of issues with contractors. I don't know if this is true, that they maintain an in-house fleet and perhaps have a lot of internal kind of contractors on their staff, whereas maybe we use external contractors more, leaving us a bit more vulnerable. So is that an area that we can look at proactively mitigating our risk?
Manager?
Through you, Mayor, I think this is a perennial issue or challenge for capital expenditure programs. I think you'll see in one of the subsequent reports for the budget mid-year budget review that one of the key mitigations we have is an infrastructure management group, and that infrastructure management group essentially keeps a very close eye on the progress of the capital works program. And you'll see in the mid-year budget review report a number of adjustments to the capital works program, essentially making sure that we are modifying our program as conditions change. So we might find that we can't get a contractor for a particular project that we had in the program, so we will substitute and do another project. If there's cost escalation on one project and an underspend on another project, we will then, basically manage that underspend and overspend to ensure that the program runs smoothly. I'm sure the director could spend hours talking to you about it, but essentially the project is the program is actively managed, and the mid-year budget review is just one example of active management of the program. And I think those perennial issues exist, but we believe in terms of the cost escalation challenges we've had, we believe that they're starting to settle a little bit. Of course, we've had to come through that process. So effectively, if I talk in summary, we'd say our recurrent capital works projects are pretty much, they're just slightly behind, but we'll be doing a lot of work in our roads area. Reseals in our roads area happen over the next couple of months. That'll bring that up to pretty much up to level pegging, and the periodic capital works status reports. Of course, we've got another one tonight, updating council on various different projects. The major projects we've been reporting all the way in terms of how they're tracking. We've had some delays in procurement on one particular project, but that's now coming to council tonight, enclosed for a tender decision. So the major projects are moving forward as well.
Councillor Quick?
I'd like to place on public record my admiration for the author of this, Alan Wise, Manager of Finance, and the Acting Director of Community and Corporate Services, Tracy. As part of the audit panel, I see it firsthand, the wonderful work they do in guiding us through the various mazes and how we prioritise and spend our money. And as I say, I'd like to put on public record my admiration for the work not only they but their staff do. And if they could pass it on to their staff, I'd really appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Quick. Anything further? You want me to put the motion to the vote, Alderman Yaxley?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll put the motion. Please raise your hand if you're for. It's carried unanimously. Moving on to item 13, 2023-24 mid-year budget review. As the General Manager just mentioned, we have 4 recommendations before us. Do I have someone to move these, please, as a motion? Alderman Yaxley, someone to second. Councillor Kendall, Alderman Yaxley.
Thank you, Matt. Just start with a question just around the rate income in the budget. It mentions, sorry, the attachment in the revised budget. It mentions that the change, like we're reducing the income. Just want an explanation around that. That was
Through you, Mayor. So first thing to note is that council, at the time that the budget was established, made some changes to the penalty provisions associated with our rates collection, and that has had the beneficial effect of giving people that are doing it tough more time and penalise them less. That has resulted in some reduction in income, but I might throw to the manager just to make some comments in relation to rates.
Thank you, General Manager. Anything to add, Manager?
Yes, certainly the reduction in penalty that we recover from our ratepayers has dropped substantially due to proactive changes to our collection processes. So this is good for the ratepayers. Clearly, there's a financial cost to the council, which is being addressed in this mid-year review. And in addition, we're finding we've got a higher amount of remissions we have to grant back to charitable organisations. There's been some development taking place in the municipality of new charitable units and developments taking place, so we must remit those charges back as well under the Act.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions. Just again, the incredible work goes into this by everyone, from the works crew to everyone in our organisation. And I've noted that we'll be reducing our deficit on forecast to do that, which that's outstanding.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's outstanding by everyone, and everyone should be really proud of doing that, because it sets us up for the next and the coming years ahead. So, well done to everybody.
General Manager?
Whilst I'm always very keen to receive compliments, just one thing to caution is that a number of these changes will, as you say, benefit us in this financial year, but a lot of the adjustments that are being made, both in terms of revenue and expenditure, are one-offs. They're one-offs within this particular financial year. So the overall result will help us in terms of putting more, taking less money out of the bank, or depending on what we're doing in terms of our end-of-year result. But it won't necessarily carry over. They're not necessarily ongoing revenue and expenditure items. Yeah, so some caution, but it is a good outcome for this year.
So just a question, if I may, just regarding that. So in the future years where we've had in our long-term forecast, would this put us in a better position for those coming years, or is it just a kind of a blip in the radar? Is it
the result? So in terms of the year-on-year, the result means that given that we were forecasting a deficit, it means less money coming out of our bank account, effectively. So we've got a bigger buffer going forward in future years in terms of our cash at bank. But in terms of what we're saying is a lot of the revenue and expenditure items are just one-off pluses or minuses this year, so they won't necessarily carry forward as a future positive revenue stream. So I'll give one example that comes to mind, which is the FAGS grants. So normally the federal government pays us a FAGS grant, and I think they normally pay half a year, I think it's quarterly, isn't it? Maybe 3/4 of a year. This year they paid full whack in advance, so that means next year we'll actually get less FAGS grant because they've paid it. And
Clever.
So that's just one example of a one-off, but it is definitely a good outcome. It won't automatically, apart from that improvement in the cash balance, it won't automatically translate into future revenue and expenditure results in future years.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any further discussion? I just agree that a lot of effort goes into moving things around so that we can ensure we deliver for our community. Things happen with our planned projects and delays, and things happen, and it's really important that we are getting the most value for ratepayers and delivering for ratepayers in terms of critical community infrastructure. infrastructure. So I appreciate the effort that goes into this. It can be like a full-time job, really, just trying to shuffle things around all the time. So it does take a lot of effort, and it's not lost on us as elected members. And I hope that our community appreciates the effort that goes into this to make sure that we continue to deliver. There's no further discussion. We'll go back to Alderman Yaxley. Anything to close debate, or I'll put the motion. Please raise your hand if you're for. It's carried unanimously. Item 14, Capital Works Status Report. We have a recommendation that we receive a note. I'll just note for the minute taker, Alderman Alderton left the room at 4:55. Receive a note, the Capital Works Status Report to 31st of January with the budget variation table and approve changes to the composition of the CapEx budget, noting there is no change in overall expenditure. Someone to move? Councillor Quick, someone to second? Councillor Kendall, Councillor Quick.
Thank you. On page 52, we have a pretty detailed list of things that are happening or about to happen. And living where I do, I can see it firsthand, money being well spent in the redevelopment of the Chandos Park, which is being appreciated by all and sundry in my neck of the woods. If you go up Hopkins Street and see what's happening in Bencherfield Park, it's obvious that we are spending money wisely and constructively, and the community are going to benefit in the long term. So if people say nothing seems to be happening in Glenorchy, just cast your eyes on page 52 and see what is being spent. Not only being spent, but spent wisely for the benefit of the young people, the families and the elderly. So congratulations to all involved.
Yep, thank you. Any further discussion? No? I agree. I echo Councillor Quick's comments. There's a lot going on in Glenorchy this financial year. We're halfway through, and we're delivering on play spaces and other sport and recreation infrastructure that is of real value to the community. In addition to the roads and footpaths and stormwater upgrades that have been undertaken. So really great to see lots of activity happening around the place, and I look forward to it continuing through to the end of the financial year. Go back to anything to close debate, Councillor Quick?
No.
I'll put the motion to the vote. Please raise your hand if you're for. That's carried unanimously, noting Alderman Alderton was still absent from the room. Item 15 is Quarterly Report, Quarter 2, period ending 31st of December 2023. We have a recommendation, Council, receive and note the Quarterly Report. Do I have someone to move this one?
So moved.
Thank you, Alderman Slade. Someone to second? Alderman Cockshut. Alderman Slade.
I must say, Mayor, it's pretty straightforward. We have these reports that come forward all in accordance to our policy, and I've got nothing else to add.
Thank you, Alderman Slade. Any further discussion? I will just say, again, a significant amount of effort goes into putting quarterly reports together. They really are our quarterly check-in for us as a elected member body to oversight the delivery of our annual plan. There's a significant amount of measures in there that administratively takes some time from council officers to keep a track of and report on. So quite a few highlights for the quarter. 4:58 for the minute taker. Alderman Alderton returned. Glenorchy War Memorial Pool, we've had progress on that in procuring MI Global in that quarter of the year. We've put forward a number of submissions on state government legislative changes. We have made a decision not to make a submission for the AFL High Performance Training Centre, which again took a bit of investigative work from officers to come to a position recommended to us as council. We held quite a significant and well-attended annual general meeting, which was quite a big deal in terms of the number of public motions coming forward and the community participation. We had a significant planning matter that generated a lot of community interest in the McDonald's proposal at Claremont, And we had a really significant GPA meeting too, where we approved over 130 new dwellings in one meeting. So lots of activity going on in Glenorchy, lots of activity being supported by council officers, and I really appreciate the significant information provided in this report, and I just wish we could more easily get interest from community in actually reading it and or getting out snippets or snapshots from it as bits of information to the community, just to show what is actually being achieved with ratepayer resources in Glenorchy. Significant progress also on Tolosa Park, which I know is of real value and interest to the community. So that's something that's been achieved through this quarter as well. Lots going on and lots continuing to go on with our play spaces in particular. And it's a really exciting time to be part of council. So thank you to General Manager and staff for the work that goes into the annual report. There's no further comment. Want to say anything to close debate, or are you happy for me to put the motion?
I'm happy to put the motion, if you put the motion, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. Please raise your hand if you're for. Carried unanimously. Item 16, Procurement and Contracts Exemption Report. We have a recommendation that Council receive and note the Procurement Contracts Report relating to approved temporary quote variations to investments required in Clause 4D of the Investment of Short-Term Fund Policy, and approve an interim variation to the Investment of Short-Term Funds Policy to increase the maximum individual investment exposure to 15 million, pursuant to Clause 4H, to be enforced until the policy review in 2025. Someone to move this as a motion?
So moved.
Moved Alderman Slade. Someone to second? Alderman Yaxley. Alderman Slade.
Well, speaks for itself, Mayor. Policies there, and the authors have done the report in accordance to that, formed us as elected members, and I note that and agree with it.
Thank you, Alderman Slade. Any further discussion? Councillor Quick?
As it says, the investment decisions are to our council's advantage and consistent with the policy. So obviously they've got their eyes on the ball, and when something needs to be renewed, you go and have a look at what's out there, but there's not much difference between the, I think it's 5 organisations that we deal with financially, but they're doing a great job, and we are benefiting, not only us, but the ratepayers. So well done.
Thank you. Alderman Alderson?
Yes, I'd just like to add, Mayor, that the report indicates that we're investing our money wisely. We're obtaining the higher rates where necessary, and things are being invested quite appropriately.
Thank you. Anything further? You happy for me to put the motion to the vote?
Yes, I'm happy, Mayor.
I'll put the motion to the vote. Please raise your hand if you're for. Carried unanimously. Item 17, notices of motions, question without notice, or motions without notice. Are there any questions without notice this evening? Any motions without notice this evening? Councillor Kendall?
Thank you. And sorry for the lack of heads up. I emailed the wrong email earlier. So I haven't given elected members much chance to think about this one, but hopefully Emma's received it. So, yeah. So just give me a minute here. So my motion is that officers prepare a report on actions that the council is taking to combat racially motivated attacks and racism in our area, and that elected members are extended an invitation to roundtable discussions with the Multicultural Council of Tasmania that I believe that they're holding.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kendall. We'll just get your updated motion up on the screen.
Sorry, I didn't get that one. I got this one.
Oh, no. That's okay. Let's just delete that one and we'll send the updated one through. You have sent it through to us.
Did you get it, Emma?
Still go for it.
Bear with us. Need some hold music.
Technology, I love it. I just love it.
Makes things so much quicker.
I remember everything you just said. Let's just move on.
Okay.
Well, that's a lot shorter than the other one.
That's right. Yeah. I got some feedback that.
The recommendation that officers prepare a report on actions, so it should be that council, request, yep. That officers prepare a report on actions that the council is taking to combat racially motivated attacks and racism in our area, and the elected members are extending an invitation to roundtable discussions with the Multicultural Council of Tasmania. Moved Councillor Kendall, someone to second? Councillor King, Councillor King, Alderman King. Alderman King. Councillor Kendall, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you. So, the goal here is to compile some recommendations from experts on how we as a local council can combat racism and racially motivated attacks in our area. And so I hope that will give us some guidance, because I want to bring a motion on this, but I'm not an expert. So we all want everyone in our community to feel safe and welcome, no matter their background, what clothing they might wear, or the colour of their skin. Unfortunately, racially motivated attacks are on the rise in our area, and it's set to worsen in years to come with global pressures, wars, and climate displacement. As the most culturally diverse local government area in Tasmania, I want us to take affirmative action now to combat racism in the northern suburbs and support all our diverse residents to feel safe and welcome here. I was hoping that Zara was still here. She was here earlier.
She's left.
Oh, she's left. She got yeah, so this is a matter close to my heart, because my good friend Zara, who lives in the local area, was attacked last December, and it's yeah, she wears a headscarf. She's a Afghan Hazara woman, and her and her mum were attacked as they were driving out of their driveway, going to the community garden, and it was yeah, it was a horrible incident, and those sort of things just shouldn't happen in our area. She managed to capture a video where the assailant said, "F off, back to where you come from." And anecdotally, we're hearing lots of these incidents around our area. So I'd love us as a council to take some affirmative action now and get this conversation happening.
Thank you. Alderman Slade.
It's funny, Mayor, I was only talking to some of the fellow elected members just beforehand in the other room, just been around for a long time in the city, but I was actually staggered on Friday when I came across some general discussion with a taxi driver, a bus driver, metro bus driver, and we started to talk to each other. And he just said to me, he said, the biggest problem, and he pointed, and he said, it's the colour of my skin. And I tell you, I take a big breath. I was quite upset over it. He said that it's not the fact that they're trying to rob me or whatever, but they're having a go at myself, my colleagues. I love my job. I'm doing what I can for the community, and it's fantastic. But I said, you've got a real racial problem here in the city. And so I've been thinking about it all weekend, and it was really nice that a couple of colleagues around the table are thinking exactly the same. And I do totally support that Councillor Kennedy. I don't think it reads right, that's all.
No, I don't know.
It doesn't make, sorry.
Feel free to, yeah.
No, that last line,
Yeah.
those last two lines don't rhyme. It doesn't. You see what I'm saying, General Manager?
Feel free to edit at will.
No, I know what you're trying to say.
You get the,
You ask a question there around that line, as in,
No, well, it doesn't, and that elected members are extended an invitation around to, so
So perhaps I can add in, and when I discussed this with Councillor Kendall, I had a conversation with Lee Wilson, the CEO of Multicultural Organisation of Tasmania last week, on this exact topic, and he mentioned that they are, MCOT have been coordinating some roundtable discussions involving members of the different community groups and Glenorchy Police, Tasmania Police, in fact, Assistant Commissioner level from Tasmania Police and some other local MPs, and that it was an oversight to not have involved Glenorchy City Council in those meetings, and that he would extend an invite in future. So it's just, I guess, reaffirming that conversation that I had, that we, I guess, we as council and elected members seek to participate in those roundtable discussions. Does that make sense?
it did. I just, way it reads at the start, it looks like we're trying to lead the way, but then we're going to see if we can go to a round table with the Multicultural Council of Tasmania, the documentation we've got. I just want, to be around the other way, that we'd do it from our end and invite them, that's all.
Yeah.
We'd have the documentation, that's all I'm saying. I'm just raising that, that's all.
Through there, I'm just wondering whether one way, I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Whether one way of fixing that is to say, request that officers, one, prepare a report, and two.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess the
I couldn't,
the feedback from the CEO was, council will not duplicate
no.
mechanisms that already exist.
No.
We can come to the table
Yeah.
rather
Yeah,
than
I
starting a
just-
separate one.
Yeah. I just want to maximise it all, councillor Kennel.
Just another thought as we're reading that. The other thing is that the recommendation needs to be something that we're doing, not something that
Elected
MCOT is
members.
doing. So that we probably, I wonder whether it can be that we communicate with the Multicultural Council of Tasmania, expressing our willingness for elected members to be involved.
That's what I'm saying. It comes from us as a,
Shouldn't that be the council communicates, not so much elected members?
Yes.
I'm happy, I'm happy.
Yeah. With the
Collaborative.
Municipal Council of Tasmania
To seek to participate or
to express the willingness of elected members
to participate.
What about changing round table discussion to a round table forum?
I think that's fine.
participate in.
Aye, that's it.
Yep.
In round table.
That's right.
Yep, that's good.
That's good.
That's good.
Take. That's perfect.
Okay, and you happy with that,
Yep.
councillor Kenny?
Yeah, that's right.
And Alderman King, you happy with that?
I am happy with that, Min.
Excellent. Fabulous. Any further discussion then?
Yeah, maybe you.
Oh, yes, you did. Yes, it was your turn, Alderman King,
I
sorry.
did.
Thank
I've
you.
actually just missed a phone call from my Sikh business partner, who I love dearly, young man. Went to his wedding 5 years ago, wonderful people. And any form of racism is unacceptable, I'm afraid, in this day and age. We are better educated than ever. We weren't educated as young people. We should have known better back then, but now I'm a lot older. I cannot see why anyone has an excuse for racism. And again, it's something I think must start in the home. People must train their children at home. I don't know what's going on there, but I have had the joy of attending, well, the greatest joy in council life is going to citizenship ceremonies. And the second most enjoyable thing I've done is the last 2 years attend the MyCot AGM as a returning officer, and to meet those wonderful people and see how they work and the officers that they have there, their efficiencies, their collaborativeness with many different nations coming together to work together. We could learn a lot from it. And I hope that we can sit around a table as a group with their board, and because they are the ones who represent the people. They are being elected to represent that group, and they are highly skilled and highly capable. So I hope we can organise that we could all go to them, or they could come to us and we could meet together as a body together and talk about where this is going and what we can do. If anything, there's a lot we can do. We can set an example for the start. We can, having a photo with them and standing for no tolerance with racism, I think is where we could well and truly start and have that on the front page or somewhere. Vote and listen to elections. Anyway, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Quick.
I'd like to compliment Councillor on her motion. When I came to Tassie in 61 in Hobart, it was a different place than it is today.
Sure is.
When I taught in the schools, they were all Anglos. And I remember in 69 going to Springfield Gardens, and there were kids there with CZ, YZ in their names, and you had trouble pronouncing their names, but they mixed in well, especially in the soccer team, in the Trinity Hill School in 74, 75. I think there were probably, out of the 11 kids, there were probably 2 Anglos and the rest were from diverse countries around the world. I think it's that we should be on the front foot. And as a former teacher, it really worries me that When you walk around the streets of Glenorchy now and see how multicultural it is, there are still people there who are bigoted, narrow-minded, and all they want to do is have a go at some of these wonderful people who have come from countries where we can only imagine the trauma and the family dislocation that they've experienced. And in my mind, I welcome each and every one of them. And thank you, Molly.
Thank you, councillor Quick. Alderman Alderton.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I too am going to support this motion. I deal with the fallout of this every day in my workplace, and it's running right from the community. The one thing I do think that is part of this problem as well that is not included in this motion is antisocial behaviour. And while we've covered off very well with A, B and B, I think at some stage we really need a C. We need to involve the community with this, empower the community to support us with this, because this is the only way you're going to stamp out this type of behaviour. I mean, prior to being elected to council, a friend of mine, Marty Watkins, did approach the mayor, but it never really got any legs and got off the ground, where he was looking to try and get a community forum up and running to address antisocial behaviour and to address racism in the community. Maybe as the end product out of these two motions and communicating with the multicultural community and the Multicultural Council of Tasmania and all other willing participants, that we may get to a point where we have a forum with the community to maybe address this problem.
Thank you. Alderman Yaxley.
Thank you, Mayor. Agree with everyone's sentiments and excellent job in raising this hideous and disgusting behaviours that are going on. It's just not tolerable in this day and age at all. It's completely unnecessary, and it's time to grow up. If you are involved in that sort of, behaviour, and you are basically putting people's safety at risk, it's unacceptable and it's intolerable. So I completely welcome meeting with the MCOT. I think that's something that we need to be doing to make sure that we are in flow with them, that we understand culturally what things could work, what things may not work, and I think it's a very excellent outcome, hopefully.
Yep, thank you. Further discussion? No? I echo the comments around the table. It is a really important issue and something we need to work collectively with the peak body as the Migrant Multicultural Council of Tasmania, I know the Migrant Resource Centre have also been at the table in those discussions. We all need to be collaborating so that we're not duplicating effort and we are using our resources collectively for the best outcome here. I note Alderman Alderton's comment that antisocial behaviour generally is impacting on communities, and certainly that's what I heard visiting some of the businesses in Moona who aren't necessarily from migrant backgrounds but are being impacted by antisocial behaviour, particularly of young people, and that's something that council does need to address as well. And I know our Safe Cities lead is working on that, and also is working on this, and it has been liaising with some of the affected businesses around here. The Moonlight Nepalese supermarket has been particularly targeted in recent times, and Bento across the road as well. And certainly our Safe Cities lead has been in contact and providing support to those businesses. So there is a number of activities being undertaken by council. I think bringing a report to outline the things that we are already doing, and will be really helpful then to take forward to roundtable discussion with MCOT, to hear about the interactions that our Safe Cities lead is having with MCOT as well, will help inform us as elected members as to how we wish to go forward, and help inform also any advocacy that we may need to do to the state government on this issue as well. Alderman Say?
Mayor, I just want to say, do you realise it's 453 days now since we had our first council meeting, and we haven't got a safeties committee up and running? I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Alderman Sage. You have made that point quite
That's a
clear.
question, I just want you to realise.
Yep. and we do accept that, and that is certainly, on the agenda now that we have full staffing in those
Which would
areas
embrace
again.
all this.
Yep, to explore.
453, yeah.
Through you, Mayor, I understand that the safety team lead has had those discussions with businesses, etc., and they have provided feedback that their preference is for a working group that's not operating at the political level, but just operating at an operational level. We can certainly bring something forward in relation to that.
Okay, so
If we wear it all.
Well, perhaps that can be part of the report, General Manager.
Yes, through you, Mayor. I'm just relaying the feedback that we've got.
Yeah, we wear it for you. Any criticism, General Manager, we wear it, not the officers.
So perhaps as part of the report that comes back, the feedback can be considered, and then we can talk about if elected members wish for a committee to be convened, including council officers, and that's something we can discuss further. I'll go back to the mover, Councillor Kendall, to close debate.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks very much for the support around the table, and just to pick up a few points, especially on the antisocial behaviour, I think that can often be targeted at the vulnerable communities first, which is why racially diverse communities cop it more than most. Yeah, so also I'm happy to hear that police are being involved as well, because I think there's big barriers to community reaching out to police because they don't necessarily see them as a protective force because of their history. And also, I think it helps us to have resources as Anglos, as Councillor Quick was calling them, to be able to recognise internalised racism within ourselves and call it out, and be allies to people when we see racism happening, to have the tools to stop it in its tracks. So thanks for your support, and hopefully it goes through.
Thank you, Councillor Kendall. I'll put the motion to the vote. Please raise your hand if you are for. That's carried unanimously. That moved, seconded.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I've got a motion without notice. Sorry, you remember to us.
Alderman Cockshott.
I would like to note, and I'll email this through, that I've read out the motion. Note the support of the Glenorchy City Council for the Tasmanian licence for an AFL and AFLW team. The Council understands the strong positive impact that having a team will have on the local economy, community, physical and mental health and wellbeing, whilst providing youth pathways for high performance sport in the Glenorchy municipality.
Sorry? Blindsided it.
Yeah, I think I might do workshop that first. I think we should all go to Melbourne and watch a
Just
game.
wait till it comes
Yeah,
up.
I'll just email.
Did you email Emma?
Yeah, I'll just send it off now.
Thank you. Hold this again. Council note the support of the Glenorchy City Council. It wouldn't be, it would have to probably be not, couldn't probably be note. It would have to be support. It would just have to be support the Tasmanian licence. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Support the Tasmanian licence. The council understands the strong. I guess my question, Alderman Cockshott, would be perhaps whether it needs a bit further exploration of what support might mean before council was asked to make a decision on.
Should that
Do you have anything specific in mind in terms of what support actually means?
Should that be in principle support?
Yeah, more so in principle support. Obviously, what's going on at the moment with the whole licence and the team names and colours and everything being announced on the 15th of March. I might get that wrong. It's just for us saying we support what it would do for the city. I know obviously we won't be having a base here, but obviously we've got many clubs in Glenorchy who play AFL, and the role it would do for the businesses around the area and also young girls and boys having a high performance club in the state and here and in schools to work with.
Should it be that having teams rather than a team? Yep, happy
Teams,
now.
yep.
LNO, FLW.
Where does this leave us if we, my question, if we accept this? I mean, I like where you're going, but I want to know what the bottom line is. What does it mean? In principle, we support. Is there enough there?
Would you
Tell
be
me
happy
what-
to workshop this a bit
Yeah,
further,
I'm
Alderman
happy to do
Cockshott, and bring it back to the
Yeah.
March meeting?
Yeah.
What do people think about that? Would people be more comfortable with that?
Appreciate my time.
Yeah, appreciate a bit more time. Yeah.
And just to make it, have a good discussion about it
Yeah.
and how it looks. Yep.
Yeah, I
Should
mean,
we all wear our footy colours that day? Or
not you.
the Tasmanian colours, we'll wear our Tasmanian colours.
Okay, so are you happy if we take that off the
Yeah,
table
that's
for now,
fine.
Alderman Cockshott, and come back next month with that one?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so move to close council, Alderman King.
Yes, please, Mayor.
Seconded, Alderman Alderton. I'll put the motion to the vote. Please raise your hand if you're for. That's carried unanimously. That brings our...
Stay over there, Danny.
See you, Mr. Steenbergen. Open meeting closed at 5:25 PM. Thank you, members of the public who have joined us in chambers and online this evening. Have a great week ahead.
5 minute break.